Hey, 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 it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. Do I have a good episode for you? Guys, I got to interview Sascha Lafleur, I think that's how it's pronounced, from west of Maine. This incredible powerhouse woman is so down to earth, so super chill, and is running this amazing business based in Ottawa, Ontario. She has a design firm, a physical shop, an online shop, and is doing virtual design all over the world. It's pretty amazing. They have about 76,000 followers on Instagram, so definitely go check them out. This conversation is very real. The first half of the conversation, we talk mostly about how she grew her business, what her journey was. I asked some pretty intense questions about how she financially managed to do this in such a short time. And she talks a lot about investing internally in her people. And I really love the things that they do actually as a team. I'm not going to spill the beans, but it's really kind of neat, some of the ideas that she has. And I can't wait to actually take some of them away and do them with my team. And then the second half is really about this whole idea of online business, how to service your clients virtually and offer still incredible service. So I think you guys will really enjoy this episode. All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
Are you as tired as I am working in a bubble? I mean, shoot. It's time to maybe socially distance with other people. That is why I love coming to the Collective Workspace. If you are someone who is looking for a little bit of stimulation, a lot of beauty, the Collective Workspace is a really great place to go. It is a co-working space for designers, architects, and builders in Toronto, and they're opening a second location this spring. They have flex workspace and offices starting at $120 a month. There's boardrooms, a podcast booth, which is where I am right now, concierge storage, and a trade-only design library. You can find out more, or if you want to book a tour, go to thecollectiveto.com.
Okay, welcome Sascha to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you as a guest.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Why don't we start off by, why don't you just tell everyone a little bit about who you are and your company?
Yeah, perfect. So basically, if I can remember today, I am Sascha, and I am the co-founder of West of Maine. And West of Maine is what was first and foremost like a design firm. And now we've evolved into having a shop, a showroom, and an e-commerce, kind of launched like the e-commerce when COVID hit. So it was good timing to kind of go online. But yeah, like foundationally, we're an interior design firm. And so it's got a very strong like design ethos that runs through even the like retail component of it. And yeah.
Awesome. And you're a pretty big deal. You guys are well known, I think, across Canada at the very least. I don't even remember how I first encountered the name West of Maine, but it definitely popped up in maybe it was my Instagram feed, because you guys are pretty present everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
We definitely, like from the beginning, saw a huge value in social media and having like, I mentored under another designer when I was first starting out, and knowing that like, I think where it was prior to social media was all like this referral business, and designers grew up their career through, over 30 years. And it was kind of that there wasn't as much of an emphasis put on like websites, and social media was just kind of like starting. So I just saw that as an avenue to kind of get a bigger business or get there quicker because they didn't necessarily have the network of 30 plus in the business of design years. So it just accelerated things. So we definitely invested a lot of our like time and energy into growing our social media presence, and it's definitely paid off.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think it's great because I think a lot of designers listening to this podcast are either just graduated school or have been in the business for a few years, but are like really trying to figure out, where do I find my clients? How do I find them? So it's always refreshing to hear someone say, and someone who's doing really well, as you appear to be doing, that you can find those clients even if you're not a member of the like tennis and racket club, or you're not a member or whatever. That's not a club, but the badminton racket club, or there's one of those in Toronto. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to have grown up in a world where people are spending money on design. There's so many people out there looking for design help, and they can find you online, which is super cool.
Exactly. And I think like even at the beginning, if you don't necessarily have, of course, you're not going to have the portfolio yet when you're like first starting out. So it's about like showcasing your aesthetics in any way possible. And I think you can even do that through lifestyle and the way that you put like your clothing together, like your inspiration. It's just communicating like your overall style sensibilities and the fact that you have like an expertise in that, and it can translate to anything. Like I remember one client saying, we came on your website and we really liked like the way that your website was put together, and didn't necessarily have the exact project that we were going to be doing, but we figured if you could aesthetically put this together in a really beautiful way, that you're probably going to be able to do that for us. And that just resonated with me because I'm like, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I mean, I always say that to designers that, everything you put out there, all those touch points, that needs to be a reflection of your ability as a designer, because what we do is visual. Like it doesn't get more visual than what we do, right? And so you need to showcase that you have an eye in every little touch point, every about a presence, whether it's your lawn sign, your website, your social, because that is a reflection of the caliber of work that you can deliver. And it shows people that you have that eye, which
exactly.
Mm-hmm. I actually talked to someone, I don't know if it was on the podcast. No, was she a designer? Don't remember. Doesn't matter. Somebody, a person. And she said to me that, oh no, it was a client of mine. And she said, after, when we were first going through this discovery call that I do to qualify the client, and I said, well, how did you find us? And I think it was, I found online, and then I was referred. And she said, I was actually going to use another designer who did work for my sister. But to be honest, like she did a nice job in my sister's house, but then when I went to her website, it just felt like incongruous with the type of work she did, and it would kind of put me off. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of power in that. Anyhow, we're kind of digressing. This is not even all what I wanted to talk about. This happens. That's okay. Okay, I want to know your journey, Sascha, because you have this like what looks like this huge like conglomerate going on in Ottawa. You're in Ottawa, right?
Yeah.
And like, tell me your journey. Like, how did you get to having what seems like it's multiple businesses?
I think it's definitely evolved naturally. So like, I'll try and make this, as short and sweet as possible. But like, I come from a family of log home builders. So I was always in like the building. My dad was entrepreneurial. So I think that came naturally. My mom was always kind of like focused on, she was more academic. So there was this kind of like critical thinking and like more business side coming from it. And then my grandmother was a fashionista. So like there was fashion and style. So I feel like this family of like inspiration helped me guide me into like following a career that I was passionate about, and also being able to be creative, but doing it in a way that could formulate a business and have some security. So I did my undergrad because it wasn't an undergrad at the time in interior designs. And that was really important to have like an undergraduate degree kind of from my mother's side. But I also appreciate that because it gave me the time to like grow up a bit before I went into my interior design diploma, which I moved to Montreal to do that. Because at the time I was like, 22 or something. And I thought that if I did like a 3 or 4 year course, I was going to graduate when I was old, like this moronic way of
all
thinking.
Relative.
I know. Anyway, so I needed to be done by the time I was 24 for my career, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, now I look back and I'm like, what the hell was the rush? But regardless, I did that and I went through both my summers. So like it was this like very focused, moved away from home, moved away from my family and friends so that I could just like totally focus on design. And I loved it. And I like kind of said like I wasn't here to make friends, just like here for this. And so I did that and I ended up like really, really excelling in it and like winning like for my class, the project of the year and getting these opportunities to like present at the Montreal interior design show, which kind of gave me the opportunity to find this firm. Actually, they're amazing in Montreal. Blanc Marine Living, I think it's still the name, and fabulous work. So I got to work for these two sisters there and gain a little bit of experience. And they were much more like residential and like styling out photo shoots and like that kind of touch point, which you don't get in interior design school. Like it's so technical. It's totally. Very much, it's interior architecture. Like that's what they call it in Europe. So I think coming out and then getting to like touch on all of these beautiful things and really working with like Melanie, she didn't have a background in design, but she was just like so naturally gifted at it. And her sister was more of the business on it. But that kind of like appreciation for how to layer and style and do like the furnishing elements kind of gave me another side of it. And then I moved back to Ottawa, which is where I'm from. It's where my network is. I like moved into my friend's basement and slept on a cot for, I don't know how long. You got to grind.
Let's not forget. You were like 24, remember?
Yes. But I think sometimes people are coming out of school and they're like, okay, I just finished design school and now I'm like a designer. I'm going to lead these things and they're going to be glamorous. And it's like, it's not glamorous at the beginning. You're like an intern at the beginning and you got to like grind it. There's pressure, there's stress, there's anxiety, you know, depending on like what route you want to take. But I kind of digress here. So then I ended up like having half of my work through working for this other designer, working underneath her, which was great because it kind of gave me like mentorship and an eye at the like business side. And then I also had my own clients, which like helped develop confidence, but still getting to like bounce ideas off of this, you know, other designer that I was working with. And I think in this industry, especially in the residential industry, a lot of designers don't hire support full time. It's like this whole of like the investment. They're like scared to like having somebody depend on them. So they're not going to do salary based. But what happens with that is that if somebody is not willing to like provide you a secure salary, then you need to also have other work because you can't count on all of your income coming from that one source. So good for building my path. But in terms of when we started West Domain, it was really important to my husband and I, so Justin and I run the company together, to offer salaries and offer security because we wanted those designers that we were working with or the team that we were working with to be committed to us.
I think that's so
and
interesting.
You can't ask for that unless you're willing to like invest in them. So that like we started hiring people on salary. We started growing the team very early on. We hired like somebody to work on our marketing and social media. So like that, you can look at big companies, you know, we collaborate with like large companies that would have the resources to do that. But like social media platforms are free, but creating the content and engaging is not. So it's an internal investment. So what you might have thought of traditionally as like your marketing budget for like external traditional media now has to be like an internal employee salary.
That's okay. Whoa, stop right there. I do want to hear more of the story, but I'm really interested in this idea because designers are always talking about, well, first of all, like when do I hire? And then I agree with you. Like for me, it took so many years to be comfortable paying somebody else because I was always worried about cash flow and I was always worried about my bottom line. And the joke of it was I didn't even know my bottom line. Like I didn't even know, like I was like, financial, not super savvy. And maybe other designers are like that too, where it's like there's this fear that what I'm paying out is not going to be covered, but I haven't actually looked at the numbers to really know if it can cover it. But I agree with you, it's an investment. And I love this idea of salaried employees, because I don't think a lot of designers talk about that. I know some designers here in Toronto who do have salaried employees, but it's not, I would say it's not the norm. And I think it's probably because most designers are solos, right? They're solo entrepreneurs and they're running their firm. And I've had a combination, I still have a combination, and I do this juggle back and forth. So I love hearing you say that, because I do this juggle where I'm like, I want everyone on salary, so we have this like team and everyone's committed, right? But then it's like big numbers start to feel really scary. And then there's this allure of people on contract and freelance because they can just come as needed. So it's this balance of, yes, they can come as needed. And I do recommend that for designers who are looking to just start learning how to delegate, because that sometimes is a skill in of itself, to like let other people do some of the work. But I would love to hear more about this idea of like putting people on salary. Like when you first hired someone and put them on salary, were you scared about like what it was going to cost? Were you going to have the work to cover them? Were you a shop at that point, or were you just an interior design firm?
So we were just an interior design firm, and the design firm is 6 years this year. The shop is 2 years. The e-commerce is 1 year. So like the shop came much later, and we worked out of our home. We like the only room in our house that we had available to us was our master bedroom. Everything else was the design firm. We had like stuff for projects in the garage and like the entirety of the basement. So, you know, you try to reduce your overhead where you can at the beginning. And we thought like, okay, reduce it in terms of like rent, because we're able to do this out of our house, but invested into the right people, because having it's just the fundamental of like 2 people can do more than 1 person. So yes, it's scary. I'm not going to lie to you. Like it's been very stressful. Even like just try working with your husband. Like there's so many dynamics there that are challenging. And if you can get through them, like incredibly rewarding. It's nice to share all of these moments. But no
Is
matter
your husband
what,
a designer? Like what's your husband's role?
no. So he's not a designer, and that's probably awesome, because then we don't like, we can pick our, you know, like our own domains. Yeah, exactly. But he does all of our photography. So like,
wow.
he was always like, he did like landscape photography, and actually we're about to launch his landscape photography collection. Finally, this has been like years in the making, but it's just fallen to the back of the priority list. But so he takes all of our photography. He really like looks at like the overall kind of like operations of the company, business development, kind of like marketing. Like he's got a brain for like the marketing end of it. But like as business owners, we like touch on kind of everything, but almost more so concentrate on the design firm, and then like the shop buying and like the training of like the design
right,
because
like
that's not his background.
Got it. So how many people do you have on your team now?
Yeah.
Do you have like how
so
many
we're
people?
About 25 now.
Wowza, that's amazing. It's amazing. And how many of those 25 are designers? So our shop, we only hire designers for our shop as well. Like when I said we have a really strong design ethos running through our retail, it's because like the retail emerged as like almost a necessity for the design firm. In Ottawa, like at the time, we had a very big lack of showrooms and things that we could source. So we were sourcing from like Europe, the States, Montreal, Toronto, like we had to go elsewhere. So when we actually grew out of our home, we needed an office space because our team was just like getting too big to be in our house. And we needed warehouse. And so we, at the same time, were like, let's open a brick and mortar, because then we would be able to
to source from like the lines that we wanted, because you weren't able to unless you had a shop. So basically that happened. And then, but in the shop, like we didn't want it to be like your regular retail where people would just go in and then they like buy the thing, but there's sales agents there to just like facilitate the sale. We wanted it to be like investment pieces and curated pieces that people could see from our designs, but they wouldn't necessarily be like the right fit to do full service with a design firm, but they wanted a touch of West Domain. They wanted like that kind of feeling throughout their home so they could still access it. So we decided to hire all designers as the shop consultants. And so we have 4 designers in the design firm. So it's still like very boutique. And then in the shop, we have another 4 designers. So we have 8 designers total on our team, which you could then understand. It's like, you think this is a design firm and design that just means that like, so I've got 8. Oh my God, I'm going to try and do my math here, but what does that add me to? Like 12, yeah, plus 5. Okay. So 17 more people. Is that right? Yeah.
So what does everybody else do? Like, yes, everyone listening to this is like, what?
What does everybody else do?
You have a design firm? What the heck? Tell us. I'm so curious.
So when you so for a design firm, it's like you need an office manager. You need HR when you have
when you have that many people.
You need you have e-commerce. So it's like you need, I didn't even know what this was before, but like a growth hacker and web developer, like, cause there's just like so much stuff going on like the website and optimizing the website. And you've got like product and vendor specialists, because there's so much like to manage in terms of like vendor relations. And because we're so much like design ethos, it's not like, we're working with all these manufacturers and artisans that like, they're artists. So you could imagine like the different kind of communications and things that have to go on. Customer service, you need customer service on the back end. You need shipping and logistics. Like we ship all across North America. So, we've got these things that are being like custom manufactured, beautiful upholstery, and they're large, sectional. Like how do you ship a sectional across North America?
Without it getting damaged.
Art is the hardest thing. Like, it's like, how do you ship the art across? It's giant. We like large and in charge pieces. Like we like, grand things. So it's just like that's a whole department on its own. The marketing and social media has its own department. We have a photography department. Like,
yeah, wow.
But
you're
then
like a legit business girl.
Something like that. I don't know what it is. Still going going crazy, but it's like, if people think that they could have the amount of content and engagement that we're producing with one designer, like that expectation is so false. You need a humongous team of talented, driven individuals to create that amount or that quality. Like it only got better. And that's why like there's lots of sayings where it's like, you just have to get started. Doesn't matter if it's perfect yet, just like put it out there, the best that you can do. Be proud of what you're putting out, obviously, like don't do it carelessly, but know that like this is your best right now and your best is going to get better.
I think that's a really great message. And I think it's to hear that there are so many like people behind, I'm like doing puppet strings, but they're not puppets. I realize that's not the best analogy, but like there are so many people working behind the scenes that's created this force that is west of Maine. So for a designer who's a solo and has like an assistant part-time to compare themselves to where you're at, like they need to stop. We all need to stop. Like we all do it, right? But you have to recognize that, and it's not that you can't get there. Anyone can get there, right? But you're right, you have to start and recognize that, well, Rome's not built in a day. maybe 6 years, but in your end,
Yeah.
but it's,
I don't know.
you've got a whole team. You've got like a whole team working on that. Like you've full-time invested on someone to do work on social media. Like that's an important message for other people to hear. It's so important. Yeah. Wow, girl.
Multiple people. It's not just one. There's a department. That's why it's like we're all like people that are like, I think, driven and, you know, passionate about what they're doing. We're all like really self-critical and just need to be like, I don't know, I've been working on this for years, but like kinder to ourselves in the journey and like celebrate the milestones, because we're always on to the next thing. When you win an award for a project or something, like that project has been completed over a year ago. So you're on to the next thing. And it's like to try and, I was talking to one of our team members about this before, but it's like trying to remember the feeling of when you're in that moment of excitement about the possibility of like being recognized for this project or, you know, getting a certain magazine or blah, 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 like trying to remember what it would have felt like in that moment of excitement. Cause you often will like say you don't need it, you know, at least this is my experience, is like I kind of say like, well, it probably won't happen. And then I don't, when I get to the point of like it actually happens or we accomplish this, that's like you're a bit like numb and you have to like bring yourself back to that moment of like, holy shit. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but
that's okay.
This is amazing.
It's so true. It's like you talk yourself out of it, and it's a complete you're protecting. It's like your brain is trying to protect yourself from getting hurt and getting let down and being disappointed. And so sometimes our brain does such a good job of that then we can't even celebrate it when it's come, because we're in such denial that the thing's happening, and we're like, well, it doesn't matter if it happens. You don't want to get too invested in the outcome. And it's like, oh my God, I won the award I wanted. But now like that project finished a year ago. I wanted it back then. Yay, that's really great. Yay. Or I made the cover of the magazine. Like, woohoo. Okay. Yeah. What? And then you're staring at the magazine. You're like, it doesn't feel the way I expected it to feel. And part of that is just there's that growth, right? You're growing and you realize sometimes like, okay, you're always, as an entrepreneur, I think, on to the next thing, celebrating those little wins and allowing yourself to have that vulnerability to get excited and to, totally.
Otherwise, what's the point? Like if you don't enjoy the journey, like you're just going to be like, you know, stressed or like whatever. It's like, no, you need to like take the moments, enjoy, celebrate with your team, fill the reserve with good vibes.
Do you do like special like events with your team? Do you guys do like fun things?
Yeah. So like we've over the last, and this is actually what, you know, a growth hacker like on our team has really done for us. It's like their experience was from much larger kind of like IT companies, where like culture, lots of people work remotely and like they're bigger divisions. So like culture is so important, and they have certain kind of tool sets that anyways, he was able to introduce into our company. So like we do one-on-ones for mentorship and just like quick check-ins, which is like, you know, you have departments and then the lead of the department will do these kind of like one-on-one meetings. It can be personal. It can be like kind of like work items, but it's just touch points. We do stand-ups in the morning. So people, again, like get that connection in the morning of like, what's going on for everybody and just like a little bit more of in the know. And then we do town halls at like on a bi-weekly of like, here's what's going on in each department. Each department lead presents like, you know, fun things, or just like, even like for the design firm, we'll show like the 3Ds of the projects that are going on. And that's really fun for like the marketing or like the shipping and logistics, or, you know, the customer service, to like see what they're working on and why like they're so busy on their day to day, or like, you know, everybody in here, whether they're in a more supportive role or not, like everybody's passionate about design. That's like kind of a number one that we look for, because it's the topic of the company, right? So it's nice to share all these like positive, exciting things. And then we do culture nights, which, I mean, the other day we did it on like skincare, because all of the like girls here were really like, we're like into skincare and wanting to know what everybody's doing. So we did a fun one on that. We've done it on like, we watch those master classes. So we've done the one on Kelly Wersler, which is amazing. And so we just pick different like topics that we want to like jam on or, chat about that's not about work. We're going to do one on astrology, like whoever's interested, like just fun kind of things.
And like, does everybody show up? Is it kind of like, is it mandatory, or is it kind of like if you want to come kind of thing?
Yeah, if you want to come. And like, I mean, people will do their own kind of like subgroups too, because, at certain points, people develop like their own relationships within the company. It's a bit hard because things have been like shut down for like people to like go out for a drink and stuff. But I think now that the like patios are opening and stuff, it will be nice because there'll be more of that kind of organic flow. But we always try to do planned things to kind of boost that a little bit. And we're, everybody here is they're really like down to earth, kind, good vibe people. And so I feel like there's this natural inclination for us to chill.
Oh my God, I love that. Well, you're clearly a very natural, down to earth person yourself. So you attracts like, right? And that's pretty awesome that you've created that culture. I love the town hall idea. That's something I want to take away from my business, because I feel like I'm always working on these things on the side, like the podcast or like the online courses. And my team just knows that I'm not available. They probably get frustrated with me sometimes. Actually, I know that they do sometimes. And I try to like make sure I have dedicated days, like when I do my time block. That's a really fun idea to share. And also across the team, with one designer's working on a project, like, hey, like, let's show them some of the finishes. Let's show them the 3D or the rendering. Like, here's what we're working on, or here's progress shots from the site. I feel like we're always so quickly kind of updating where we're at and then like get back to work. I love that idea. I think that's really, really smart, especially as your team is growing and the more people you have, you're not as connected with what's happening.
And especially like people are working remotely too. So it's like not everybody is like in the showroom or in the office. And so it's just like bringing back that passion and connectivity and like knowing, because otherwise, you don't know. It gets too big that like you're just talking to your single department and you have no idea what the other people are up to. And it also consolidates the bigger vision. Like, what are we all going? Why are we all here? And where are we all going?
Yeah, totally. One question, and then I want to shift gears, is I want to talk about like your whole virtual model. And before we do that, my question to you is, as your business was growing and scaling, because you've brought on all these people, you have these departments, you started this shop, was this something that you invested? Like, did you take a leap of faith and invest money into your future, or did you wait until you had the money in the company and grow? Did you grow like slowly? I'm always curious. Are people like taking a risk? Like, you don't have to tell me like the details. Feel free to share what you want. But I'm just always curious. Like I'm in this point where I'm trying to grow certain legs of my business, and I'm like, do I like just use the cash flow, which means it's a slower growth model, or do I maybe invest, like borrow money to invest? I mean, I just like not, you know what I mean?
I think you can do it. I think you can do it either way. Ours, like, it's a bit of both. It's a bit of a mix, like, personal investment, and also it's like, external. So I think that you want to do it a bit of both. We are we're pretty conservative. I think that like if we took on more, like maybe we could grow faster, but then at the same time, if you have a rainy day, then, or you need, we're very much of the mindset of like, don't be greedy. Don't take it for yourself, like reinvest it into the company. So as we would, grow a little bit more and make a little bit more, it was always internally put in for like a nicer showroom or to hire better people. So we were always like investing it into the salaries of other people. And that means that you might, like you say to other kind of designers, where I've had a few conversations where their dream was to do a shop or grow something bigger. And I said, you'll definitely make less than you do now if you decide to like go in that trajectory, if you want to do it properly, and if you're investing in like the long term, because whether that's investing into like a really good employee, which like now we have benefits for our employees too, because we understand that like to get like good, talented, like the top-notch people, you need to invest into them, which means like salary wise, benefits, like security, which means that, yeah, you're not going to take away as much. So it just depends on kind of what you want to sacrifice into that. And I don't know if I'd really call it a sacrifice or an investment, but the other thing is like, when you're looking at your brand long-term, you might also do some portfolio pieces to build your portfolio that you're not really like being compensated top dollar for. You know, you're investing in that way. You're investing into, if something goes wrong, like we're in high-end design, the mistakes are costly. So when you are delegating off to other people and they don't necessarily like, you're building their experience, but a mistake happens.
Yep.
It's inevitable, but you pay for it because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that your client experience is amazing because that's reflective of your brand. And if you look at your brand as a long-term investment, then you cough up the money and you just eat it. So it's sacrificing.
Yeah, no, I like to hear that. Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. I mean, I've always been of that mentality. Like any profits that we make, it always goes back into the business, or it's a rainy day fund, or it's like, okay, how can we invest? Like, can we invest in PR? Can we invest in a new hire or a more senior designer to keep elevating? Also, the stronger the people are on your team, the more able you are to take a step back and work on the business, right? And do more big picture planning so you don't have to be in the nitty gritty. I know a lot of designers are nervous to hire because they're worried the other people will make mistakes. So I'm glad to hear you say that because they will. And they will continue. You will always have people making mistakes. It doesn't matter the caliber. It doesn't matter the experience level. It's just human, right?
Yeah, I will make mistakes. And the thing that we say to our clients is that the reality is in this industry that no renovation goes perfectly, but we provide full service. And when something comes up, we will have your back. We will logistically figure it out and we will represent you in the best way possible of getting this sorted. So it's like, you can't avoid the reality of like, if you want to do design to this caliber, like there's so many details. There's so many collaboration and moving parts. There's so many things that you can't control, but communication is key. And like taking the time at the onset of the project to paint a realistic picture, to have those budget conversations, those timeline conversations, because you're always telling people what they don't want to hear. What you want costs more and takes longer. But it's better to do that right at the start because then you can dive into the creative and the experience is so much better. Now, have I lost a bunch of have we lost a bunch of projects not being like more salesy? Yes. But I think at the end of the day, we also gained clients and delivered experiences that were much better than if we signed on to ones under a false illusion.
Yeah, totally. It's all about understanding, like making sure it's the right fit, right? It has to be the right fit. Because you might think, oh, shoot, I was just having a conversation with a Toronto designer for the podcast, Karen Bennett, and she was saying, like, sometimes we put proposals out and they just don't hire us. And we don't hear from them and they'll just ghost us, like disappear, which I've experienced that too. But you can't be hard on yourself. It probably means that person is not the right fit. They're either not willing to pay what's your value, right? Or it's just it's not the right time or what have you. So I think that's really important for designers to understand, like, it's okay if you don't get a job. It's hard when you're starting because you just want to like make your mark, you want to have cash flow. And sometimes you do take jobs that are not portfolio driven because you need the money. Like we've all been there. It's just part of the growth. Okay. I want us to talk a little bit about this
bread and butter.
Consultation.
You gotta take,
yeah.
You want some bread and butter jobs for sure.
And I mean, honestly, like sometimes we have a client and they're like, we really want this thing. And I really don't agree that it's the right thing, but we do it because it's their house ultimately. And maybe I just don't photograph that room, or maybe I don't even photograph that house. But you know what? It kept us all in business.
Yeah.
Now that it's okay.
And it's like sometimes, like, I think sometimes when, at least at the beginning of West Domain, we did have some clients where like they drove it so much that, because trust is a huge factor, and people are coming to you for a reason, and you are a professional, and you're going to give them like, I'm assertive and confident in what we're doing, and that's why people are hiring us, right? So it's like, you have to put some trust that we understand the overall vision and that we understand what you're trying to create. And if you try to control the process too much, it like almost depletes the creativity out of us, and also like the care. Because at one point you're kind of like, well, if you're really fighting for this piece that I've guided you, that it's not going to work, then like by all means, and I'm just here to logistically implement what you want. And so why hire a creative firm like ours if you're just looking for somebody to like do what you're saying?
Yeah.
There's so much more capacity that we have for you. So
yeah, we recently had a similar situation where we had to pull the plug on a project because I was like, why did you even hire us? Like, we are not, if you wanted the kitchen designed like this with that exact, like you just hire like somebody who can do AutoCAD for you. Like, this is ridiculous. I don't even know why you would hire us. This isn't working out. Okay. I want to hear about like you've really embraced the online space, right? So maybe tell us a little bit about that transition to moving things online, and you're doing consultations. And I think designers are going to be so interested in learning about this, or even anyone who's listening who's not a designer, because there's this sort of hesitancy with, can you do it online successfully? What does that look like? Do you want to like talk a little bit more about that service you're offering?
Yeah. So in the design firm, we definitely do, like we only do full service in the design firm, and we have remote clients. So in the design firm, we are always going to location at some point. So whether like, I'll kind of talk about them two separately, but it's like, if we're doing remote, then we're always going out to site survey, so that we take all of our own measurements, because they're larger projects, they're investment projects. We're on them for a year to 2 years. And we'll also be there, if it's furnishing wise, we're going to be there for the load in and styling. If it's more renovation, then we're going to be there for, a couple site walkthroughs. But a lot of it can be communicated virtually. So like for an example of a presentation for a design firm client, where they're remote and they're not coming in, because even when we actually had the shutdowns and we weren't able to have them into the office, we would do this. But you need to make sure that your package that you're creating, like your design package, has every detail in it. This is your design contract. When you're collaborating with other people, if you are missing specifications and you're designing remotely, like you don't have the chance to just walk on site and like look at what's going on and correct it while it's there. Like, it doesn't work that way. And because we do commercial, we're not doing much commercial right now because I think it's just the way that it's going, right? Like there's nothing really coming in boutique commercial right now, but we have, and a commercial approach is to have everything on your plans and everything like specified out. It's completely detailed, versus I feel like the residential is sometimes the approach is a little bit more like organic in its flavor, and less organized. So we take that approach.
That's such a polite way of calling it. That's so polite. Yeah. It's a little bit more organic in its flavor. I would say it's like chaotic and messy, but anyhow.
a bit of a tornado. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you're doing like when you try to do multiple projects and you're trying to do them remotely, it can't work like that. So our design packages are like, just the construction packages are like 40 plus pages. They're huge. Wow. So when we do a presentation, we would send like a whole package of all of the finishes and all of the like fabrics and whatever needs to be communicated in terms of like samples. We would send a whole package to them. And then we've also sent like a whole picture display. They're all labeled out. So what the client does is like takes them out of the package, arranges them in the way that we've photographed them to arrange it, and then we do the presentation. It's like very fluid because we're just walking through all the things as if they were in the showroom. So this is design client, and we're very able, like we understand, we ask the right questions. Like when we're starting out, we give them a design program which has like these whole questionnaires of down to like how they want to feel and sit in something. So if somebody, I'm just going to give the simple example of a sofa. If somebody wants it to be more conversational, if they want it to like hold its form when they get up, then you're going to go for something that has like a denser foam. You're going to go for something that has a shallower profile to it. You want to rest your arm on the side, you're going to go for what? So we ask all these questions so that if a client is remote and they can't come into the showroom to like sit and touch and feel certain things that we can't send as samples, they understand and trust that we can order, you know, a $10,000-$20,000 product for them and know that it's going to be right for them. And we have the confidence to do that.
Yeah.
So that's on the design side. And I mean, on the shop side, when the shop had to close because COVID, and we couldn't have access to our clients in the same way, or customers in the same way as when the shop was open. So we decided to pivot and start offering these like 1 hour complimentary virtual consultations through the shop with our shop designers. And this was huge because I mean, we do it throughout North America. So even in like, we have a lot of US customers that they would never be able to come into our shop anyways. So the virtual tool is just something that we'll have like ongoing. And I think that the ethos came from like, let's say you're going to buy a rug. Well, why not use this complimentary service to make sure that you're buying the right size? It's actually, you know, going to achieve the look that you're hoping for it. We can tell you about like the different benefits of going for a wool or going for like more of a polyester or whatnot. So when we're doing the virtual consultations, people are able to book it. You can book multiple of them too. You're doing it with an expert. You are sending us resources prior, so we're prepared. Like we ask for your room measurements. So if we're talking about a living room, we have this whole like thing that we send of like how to measure your room, how to photograph your room. Send us if there's particular pieces that are going to be existing. What are the dimensions of it? Like we ask the questions so that when we get onto this consultation, we can give them solid advice. If they already have a clear understanding of what they want, then we can reassure them of their decisions because they're investment pieces. People are paying for shipping. Like we want to make sure that the pieces that they get from West Domain, they have a good experience. They felt supported and that they're like really happy with them and they stand the test of time in their home. We don't want our stuff to like go into landfills. We want you to redesign with it. If you ever wanted to change up your space, like perfect. An 8x10 rug can easily go into a bedroom. It can go into a dining room, a living room, like. So that's kind of the
You're speaking my language. You're speaking my language. I hate like disposable design, fast fashion, all that BS because that's what happens, right? Or if it's a poor quality rug, let's say, well, it's going to start pilling. It's going to be, you know, it's going to fluff everywhere. It's going to shed. And then you're going to say, this is a piece of crap. And I'm just going to either put it on the side of the road or like donate it. But then no one really wants it. So then the donation place just takes it to landfill, right? So seriously, everyone always thinks like, oh, well, it's okay. It's off my conscience. I donated it. Like really? People don't want all of your old crap.
No, exactly. My aunt, she's an artist and she lives in Mexico and she's like freaking fabulous. Anyway, she was the one that told me like really about like, you know, she'd walk around the house with her piece of art and just like feel out where she wanted to put it next. Like, it's just like,
so cute.
She said, if you love something that it will always have a home. So like take your time to get the pieces that you love, do your due diligence, and understand what you're getting and then redesign with it. And she's always able, like how much cheaper is that when you don't always have to like buy an entirely new home?
Yeah,
you can,
totally.
So it's anyways, I think it's a good mindset, especially for our times.
I love that. So now that the store is opening, will you still offer those free virtual consults, do you think, within the shop?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll continue doing this because as I said, like we have a lot of customers that are across Canada. So like they might be in BC or Alberta or something, or, you know, they're in the States, in Texas and California. And so they wouldn't be able to come in anyway. So I just think it's like, allows us access to such a wider audience by providing these. And it's fun for us to get like, I'm doing not on the shop end, but on the design end. I started on this platform. I don't know like how much you know about it, but it's called The Expert. It's this it's awesome virtual service where, because I was telling you before, we only do full service in the design firm. Lots of people were reaching out to us that had like smaller projects. Maybe they just need a couple things for a kitchen, or they want to know paint colors, or they're doing some landscape, but it's not like a 2-year-long project. So we can't do that through the design firm. So I started doing those personally on The Expert. And like, that's fun because I've done projects with people in Saudi Arabia, Portugal, throughout the States. Like, it's just
cool
global access that you get.
Wow. So, I mean, I actually don't know that much about it. I'm pretty sure I follow The Expert on Instagram, and I know some designers who do consultations through them, but I actually don't know much about their platform. So does that mean, is it just a one-off consultation, or no, it's them accessing you for full service? Or not necessarily full service if they're on the other side of the world, but full design?
Yeah, so no, it's just hourly. It's literally like people can book 55 minutes or they can book a 25-minute time slot. So I would say it's relatively new. Like, we started in their beta phase back in November. I think there was like 20 designers of us on it. And then it just like exploded, which I'm so happy because I think it's something that our industry needed. But it's based, like, what people have been doing so far is kind of like taking the 55 minutes and we'll run through like their house plans and talk about, you know, kind of like all of the direction and really kind of consolidate their ideas and then give some specifics, and then they'll take that and run with it, and then they'll come back and they'll book like another 25 minutes to say like, okay, I got all of these samples and this is how it's all going to go to that. This is the quotes that I got back from the contractor. This is the millwork, like shop drawings.
Right.
Can you just do a quick review? Does everything make sense? Okay, I'm going to run with it. Because what full service is us doing absolutely everything. We take your ideas, but we logistically implement. What the expert is they're logistically implementing it. I'm not running your project for you. I'm simply consulting you as an expert on it.
It's like a designer on call from anywhere around the world. Do they have to book,
pretty much,
like how, like you, I guess, block off your calendar for when you're available for those, and then they can book like it's so many days in advance type of thing? Or could they book with you tomorrow? Like, my fear is like, I've got my calendar, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, now I have to do this consultation online tomorrow.
I pretty much do them on the weekends when I don't have to, like, because it's crazy, like during the week, because as you can know, like anything and everything comes up, but I pretty much lock off the time on the weekend so that it's, and generally, like, you've got, I don't know, is it 48 hours notice? There's something like that you would have on it, but yeah, it's supposed to be like just within that hour that you're providing like quick consultation, quick and dirty consultation, I like to call it, on it. But so that you don't have, because I know what you're talking about. It's like, if you had all this homework after, it's like, how do you plan for that? So that's why the benefit of like, you're in it for that hour. And then if they book another one, it's an on-call, but it's an on-call where you've blocked off those times that you'd be able to give that service, and you don't have the homework that comes after it, which is generally the huge part of legwork, right?
Yeah, so there's no follow-up. There's no, oh, let me send you this link to this thing. It's like, I'm here. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to show me? We can walk through the house. Show me your plans. Is it via Zoom, or do they have their own platform?
No, it's via Zoom, and it's exactly like that. And I always say, like, the people that get the most out of it are the ones that come prepared. People are coming with presentations for me, and this is awesome. It's kind of like when we're working with, you know, our design team, it's like, it's this presentation where you can give consultation on it during that time, and think about how much money people can save by just having like little tweaks in direction when they're doing a giant project.
Have you ever had somebody decide
almost
to
like
hire
a lawyer
you?
in design?
Yeah, but have you had someone decide to hire you? Like, have you done a consult through that and they're like, you're awesome, we love you, like, we want to hire you?
The issue with that, so we did have somebody find us through The Expert that we're now doing a big project with, but they didn't actually like do an hour with The Expert. They knew that they needed much more. The issue is when somebody comes on it and wants to, we had somebody that like they're doing an awesome project in Austin, but they needed to start right away. And we're booking, like we're growing our design from right now. We're looking for another senior designer, or looking for another junior designer. So like we're growing so that we can take on more, but currently we're booking into 2022. So if somebody needs it right away and it's a giant project and they actually want you to logistically implement, like we wouldn't have the capacity to be able to do that.
Right. And typically people who are doing that are like, I need it right now. It's not like, I'm planning on building next year. Yeah. No. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. So interesting. I'm sure designers listening are gonna be like, what is this thing? I'm gonna go check it out. Okay, we have a couple more minutes. Is there any, I mean, I feel like I could talk to you forever. I have so many questions for you, but we'll have to do this again. Is there anything else that, like, when it comes to business, when it comes to all of these amazing things that you're doing, any advice, like a nugget of wisdom that you could share with my listeners?
Well, I know that one of the kind of questions that we were talking about was like people like starting out. And I think like if you're, because I've been having these kind of conversations because we're hiring right now, and it's like, you know, finding people, shop designers that want to come into the shop, junior designers that want to come into the design firm. And you have to like trust your gut in what you're creating, because you're creating it either for like a client, or you're creating, if you're working as like a supporting role in a firm, you're going to be creating it for the client, but you're also going to be like showing it to like your more senior designers or your boss or something like that. So what sometimes I find happens is that they read too much into what they think that you want from them, and they forget to actually like what they're producing. So one of my first questions, if something kind of gets handed off to me that I'm like, you know, what like kind of what is this? Like we missed the plot a little bit, you know, like this doesn't work, is do you like what you've shown me? And that could be in a social media capacity, graphic designs, whatever it is. Like, do you actually like what you're presenting to me? And like, they didn't even think about whether they liked it or not. They were just trying to do what they thought that you wanted. And I'm always like, it's a good indication if you like what you're producing, that other people are going to like it, because no matter like any style, you can do any style really beautifully, whether it's modern, classic, whatever. And generally people can tell and if they walk into a room, if something is really beautiful. It's the hard part is getting it there. They don't know how to get it there. So I find like as a designer, like whenever you're going to go with a presentation, doesn't matter if it's kind of like out of your like wheelhouse a little bit, like just look at what you've put together and like think about whether like you like it.
So good. So true. I think we get caught up sometimes in like what the client, and obsessing over the client, but they said they didn't like bamboo. And you're like, and you've got this whole scheme, but really one thing works. It's like, but why even know what it is or why it was that they didn't like it? Like, what is it about? And that's just maybe not the right example, but you know, we get sometimes fixated on, are they going to like it? Are they going to like it? When the reality is most of the times they don't even know what they like until they see it, like you say. So do what. And that I think has to do with, I mean, your process is probably not dissimilar to mine, but I'm not showing them samples and options and like going back and forth. I used to do that. Now I'm like, give me all the information. We'll take all of our measurements. Let us design it so that we have that breadth and that space to just really make it work without too much interference, if you will, from the client.
Yeah. Well, another big thing, I guess, as a takeaway for that, if it's designers, is like we now do a concept presentation. So the concept presentation is so like schematic. It depends on the project, but it's like, let's say it's just like schematics of like layouts or like visuals. There might be some finishes or textures, but it's so like
broad strokes.
So kind of like top level, so that when you hand out it's like when you hand out a questionnaire to a client, they can only give you so much because they haven't seen anything visual. They haven't dove into the project yet. So when you do this concept presentation, you know, like 3-4 weeks or, you know, a couple weeks into like signing on to the project, then it helps stimulate more like thought process from them of what they like, what they don't like. Like you could have somebody that's showing you a million like inspirational pictures. They're all sorts of different things on their Pinterest. And then you actually show them like, okay, I'm going to take your project in this direction. And you give them like a light and bright kitchen. And they're like, oh, I really want like really moody. Well, that would suck if you got to like the presentation package where you've picked all the specifications, you've done all the budgeting, you've done the entire design package. That's going to be a lot more rework to do. So we always do a concept presentation to like solidify the look, feel, and direction. And then we dive into everything else into the design package. And there's very little revisions that come after the design package because of doing that. So that's just a fundamental for us.
Yeah, and we do that too. It's something I don't know when I implemented it, maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. It was a game changer for us.
Yeah.
Not so much that we would miss the mark with design, but we were always over budget, like terribly all the time. So our concept review now includes budget as well. So we'll budget out all the items that are needed to make sure that they're comfortable with the numbers. It also gets that for us, it gets the sticker shock out of the way. So it's
completely.
not, when we get to presentation, it's so beautiful. What? That's $300,000? I only wanted to spend $200 or whatever it might be. Yeah, I love that. So much nuggets of wisdom and all the things. Thank you so much for joining me today, Sascha.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Can you let everybody know where they can find you if they want them to follow you or your website?
Yeah. So we have the design firm on Instagram. Like Instagram is a really good, that's kind of like our main social media platform. So we have at West of Maine, and we have at West of Maine Shop, which is the furniture and decor store. And we also have the 2 websites, but you can kind of get to the websites off of the social media. So I'd say start with Instagram and hopefully we inspire you.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for being my guest. I can't wait to see where you guys go in the future because you're just like on this growth trajectory and I love it.
Thank you. We'll connect soon.
All right. That was wonderful, no? I'm so inspired. 6 freaking years and she's got this like mammoth company with like 25 employees. What? Damn those people who have their husbands helping them with their business. Am I right? Anyways, I think that was a really great conversation. I had a lot of aha moments in there, takeaways of things that I can do with my team. It was also very inspirational on growing a business. Like sometimes you just need to take a little bit of a leap of faith, invest in people, and you can't do it all yourself, right? I hope you guys really enjoyed that episode. Please come say hello in our Designer Meetup Facebook group. Let us know what your aha moments were from this. And if you haven't already subscribed, obviously subscribe to this podcast, but can you leave us a review, like a lovely 5-star review to let people know if it's providing value? That would be really helpful. And I'll see you guys soon.